Hello, and welcome back to the definitive Starship review series without access to a proper table, where today we are ending our long streak of wearing the same sweatshirt for 10 weeks, quote unquote, with the Vulcan Cruiser, yes, from the Discovery Collection. A pretty standard Discovery size, if I recall correctly. I don't have my whole collection out, but we shall get into our standard size comparisons. The Disco prize here, the Strange New Worlds Enterprise XL, which is of course the same size as the TOS and TMP XL models. Over in the Universe Collection, I got a bit bored of bullying the Romulan flagship, so here it is about the same size. In fact, pretty much exactly the same size as the USS Zhanghe, not the Toussaint, but should be the same size as whatever the red variant, or the pointy nacelle variant is. And finally, for another example in the Discovery Collection, it's pretty close. Again, almost exact compared to the Klingon D7 from the Discovery range, of course, as you can probably tell because it's green and large. But yes, the Vulcan Cruiser, a super organic, one of those very animal head-like, almost bird, elephant, anteater. It's an interesting one, certainly, that, again, don't really know how you'd land. Actually, probably like that. You can't land this model, it's too back-heavy. But never mind, that makes sense. Certainly an interesting Vulcan design as well. Warp capable, long range, capable of landing on planets, but quite small. It incorporates the sort of ring warp nacelle that you can see in Vulcan ships. Not complete, of course. The Vulcans kind of started phasing this out. I suppose maybe Lower Decks is bringing it back a bit, but yeah, it is nice to see that little bit of visual continuity. I do want to address before I forget, this stand looks crazy, and I know that looks kind of weird, but it's actually a really secure stand, unless you slap its nose. It is kind of hard. You have to line up exactly to get it. If you know what you're doing, I guess it's not too hard. But yeah, it is a surprisingly good stand. I mean, I'm comfortable with it. You just can't really knock it. But I guess part of the old test why we do it is my intro does not have it fall off its stand, which is really probably the maximum amount of force most of these ships are going to have unless you live in an earthquake zone. But anyways, I am digressing. As we look kind of broadly at the Vulcan Cruiser, you'll see a lot of ornate stuff. This kind of bronzy, browny base that's weathered in a lot of various ways. You can kind of see, I'll look in more detail, with a bit of silver, gunmetal-y, so it does shine under my film lighting, and slightly less so under normal lighting conditions. But generally, very organic skeleton. Like, this is almost cheekbony, very long nose. Almost looks slightly Romulan, which makes a bit of sense when you think about the relation between the two species, but you can clearly get a cockpit view. It's just painted brown in here for the model, but for scale, it is nice to get that. You always love a model that you can just tell how big it is. Let's start with some closer ups. How about we start from the front and work up? We've got the nose, very silvered, pointy, graded as well as we'll hear. Hope you can hear that with the gain super low. But super weathered. If we just zoom in here on some of these bits, you can see the copper weathered in a much darker brown, but also the silver, it's got dirt weathered. I mean, this thing is going to fly through the deserts of Vulcan. You'd kind of expect it to get a bit weathered. The underside, generally a bit more clean, which is weird, as I'd assume that's kind of a landing leg-ish, but also metallic, and I believe both these sides are symmetrical. So we're probably just going to focus on the one as we go along. Here, just again, a lot more vents, grates, and then just that weathering, really well done with the browns, the oranges. Up here, it gets more interesting with the reddish-brown color going up here to highlight what we're going to call the nostrils, which it's just a lot of kind of impressive indented organic shapes. You can see on the top you've got a dissection of the Paradox Interactive logo, just kind of in silver to look kind of interesting, with even some real fine detailing in there between those two red bits, within the windowsill. I guess you could have made it more interesting. I don't remember if there's like a blast shield or something, a blast shield door that maybe it's closed. Maybe you just kind of painted it black. I get why you wouldn't put like the glass or anything there for a model like this, but it is nice that you can clearly look at it and be like, oh yeah, that's a view, that's a window. Especially kind of from afar where the shape is maybe a bit more important than the color. But then again, I'd have to see it, but there's probably some sort of grayscale color that would have worked really that well there. To just make it look more like a window and have it pop out more. Moving on to the crown a bit, the hair, as we'll call it. You've got almost like bear claws with a bear giving you a big, thick middle finger. And then some ornate detailing up here. Almost, I don't know what to call it. I guess Vulcan is the term I'm looking for, because it's not really anything else. This kind of ornate hatch on the top, hatch pattern, with just, yeah, a lot of detailing going on. Flipping back to the underside around the warp cylinder thing. Looks like we've got a structural piece down here that I've literally only now just noticed to hold the nacelles on. That is kind of weird. I wouldn't think you'd need it. It's I guess it's not held on in a lot of places, but I don't know. You probably could have done that better. Even just connecting like these bits right next to it or kind of up here a lot closer is kind of weird. Unfortunate. But if you're looking at it from the front, I suppose is the argument. A lot of these angles, really the only angle you're going to notice it is there to there. And there's enough to distract you, I guess, some blue bits. It is weirdly, though, like right there. You will see it. But there is some pretty basic blue engine glow. Weirdly weathered, looking at it. I don't think that's a poor paint job, but you can see the kind of black, browny, just kind of holes in that blue glow. I guess it probably would have looked a bit strange, all blue that big, but also a bit here for presumably impulse. Interesting, again, holes here. Discovery is a big fan of holes in the ships, but real complex molds and shapes, especially up here, which very solid. I could probably bend that if I really wanted to, but it would take some doing. Snap it, rather, sorry. Interesting yellow bits all along this bit here, kind of in between these two posts. Interesting, because I've owned this model for ages and did not notice them at all until sitting down to do this review. But also this lovely bluey, it's actually not the same silver, it's a blue-gray, which I think looks really nice. What I was thinking might be good for the cockpit is a weathering back here, maybe like soot almost or something, like engine debris coming up for when they're in an atmosphere, I guess, all that Vulcan dust just sanding away everything. It's an interesting case because there's not a whole lot of detail in the sense of like windows, structure, whatever. But in terms of just organic what's going on, it's incredibly detailed. I'll probably rivaling some of those Klingon ships from Discovery, but yeah, just generally letting you get a close up of some of these organic views, crevices and stuff. Like, oh, and there you go. You can see some silvery stuff up here, just more bumps, greeblies. And yeah, it's one of those. It's kind of what the picture shows with real nice greeblies. This texturing on here doesn't actually feel like the standard plastic. I think it's this front rim almost feels slightly bumpy. It's kind of nice actually. And again, like it's been sanded, it's been flying through the Vulcan deserts and it's been sanded a bit. That's a real nice but other than that, the materials, this is kind of the standard Eaglemoss plastic. The base is sounding a lot more metal. This bottom bit's plastic. It's definitely a pretty dense. I can feel this area of this model with weight. It does not feel entirely metal. Not at all. It'd be way heavier. But I am struggling to feel out where exactly the metal is. Judging by the center of mass as well. The center of mass being about here. I think kind of this bit might be metal. It's really hard to tell. The only things like this does not feel the same material as this, and I've discussed the texturing here, which feels like a feature really. But Yeah, it's a hard one. It's definitely got a pretty like good weight. I'm getting a bit sore holding it like this and twirling it around so much just in this one hand, so that'll tell you something. But yeah, I think that's probably it for this video. It's one where you look at it and you see if you want it or not. My job is mostly to give you the chance to look at it. And so yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about this model, just ask me below in the description. I'll do my best to answer them. If you want me to view a specific model, again, just ask. I'm more likely to have it than not, and I own the entire Discovery collection, so I'll get around to it as soon as I can if you ask. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.